Hi everyone, today Group 7 is presenting Empathy in Systemic Design. Our team includes Abdul, Lamisi, Landry, and me, Nikki Velas. In this presentation, we'll explore what empathy is, how it connects to systemic design, and how it is applied in real-world contexts. We'll also share our perspectives and discuss how empathy can be used in practice, particularly in relation to our applied research focus on homelessness. Let's get started. Zhang and Halleck begin by asking what is empathy and why does it matter? They explain that empathy isn't always clearly defined, especially in surgical literature, but is widely discussed in medical and psychological fields. The term empathy comes from the German word Einfühlung, meaning feeling into. They define empathy as a vicarious state, a shared understanding of another person's thoughts and emotions, going beyond recognition to truly see the world from their perspective. Empathy is essential in how we interact within systems. It builds trust when people feel understood. They're more open and engaged. It also improves outcomes by aligning solutions with real needs and strengthens relationships through a deeper understanding. That's why we chose empathy, because our homelessness project focused on understanding lived experiences, system barriers, and human needs before proposing solutions. Systemic design looks at systems as a whole, made up of people and processes. Empathy helps us understand real-life experiences within those systems. Instead of designing for users, empathy shifts us to designing with them, letting their experiences guide decisions. This matters because systems often fail in real-world use, and empathy helps close that gap.
From an academic perspective, empathy is complex. It's multidimensional, involving both understanding someone's perspective and emotionally connecting with them. It also is influenced by internal and external factors like emotions, environment, and context. And lastly, it's difficult to define consistently as fields like psychology, healthcare, and design all interpret it differently. In design, empathy is applied through co-design and participatory design. There's been a shift from designing for users to designing with them. This means working directly with users and involving them in the process. The designer's role shifts from expert to facilitator. Since users are experts in their own experiences, their input leads to more meaningful and effective solutions. There are several tools used to apply empathy in practice. Empathy maps help organize what users say, think, feel, and do. Interviews allow us to hear directly from users in their own words. Observations helps uncover things people may not say. And role play or simulations let us step into others' experiences, helping build deeper empathy. Empathy isn't fixed. It's a skill that can be developed. It can be strengthened through training, reflection, and experience. Research shows it improves communication, relationships, and overall outcomes. It also enhances service quality by helping us better understand and respond to people's needs. Because of this, empathy is essential across many industries. So throughout this presentation, we used several academic sources to understand empathy and its role in systemic design. Barnes and colleagues highlight a shift from designing for users to designing with them through more collaborative approaches. Zeg and Halleck define empathy as understanding and sharing both emotional and cognitive experiences. And in healthcare, Regatos and colleagues show that empathy improves trust, communication, outcomes, and can be developed through training. Haigura and Macias introduced empathy maps as a practical tool to better understand users. Smeek and colleagues emphasize empathy in co-design, leading to more meaningful outcomes. And lastly, La Gente and colleagues showed that empathy can be developed through structured training and is linked to improved communication, relationships, and service outcomes. So overall, these sources show that empathy is both a concept and a practical tool for designing more human-centered systems. So this is where empathy connects for us personally. To us, it means understanding before judging, taking the time to see someone else's perspective. So it feels like health and safety and engineering. It shifts the focus from blaming individuals to understanding the systems. For example, if someone isn't following a procedure, instead of assuming carelessness, empathy helps us ask why. This often reveals deeper issues like time pressure or unclear processes. So empathy doesn't just make us more understanding, it helps us create better systems and ask better questions. This concept resonates with us because it has real world impact. Empathy isn't just theoretical, it shows up in how we communicate, how we make decisions, and how we design systems. It builds trust between people, improves outcomes, and ultimately leads to more effective and sustainable solutions. That's why it's something we see as not just important, but necessary in both professional and everyday contexts. It's a simple shift in thinking, but has a powerful impact. So, if we were teaching empathy to others, we would focus on simple practical actions. First, asking meaningful questions, not just surface level, but questions that help understand someone else's experience. Second, active listening, really paying attention without interrupting or jumping to conclusions. Avoiding assumptions is also key because we often think we understand situations when we really don't. Observation is important too because people don't always say everything, but behavior can reveal a lot more. So, overall, empathy is something that develops through practice, reflection, and consistency, trying to understand different perspectives. Empathy isn't learned in theory, it's built through practice.
So, how do you apply empathy in practice? We start off by engaging with users directly, talking to them about their experiences, understanding the context that they face, the environment, the time pressures that influence their decision making. Once we've got that figured out, we want to make our solutions. We want to test those solutions because what works in theory might not work in practice. And then we want to encourage feedback because feedback on those solutions is what will make them better, and creating a safe place allows that to happen. So, how do you apply this in practice? Well, our interview showed us that homelessness is shaped by multiple barriers. It includes limited housing, service navigation, and the need for consistent support. So, that empathy or those empathy insights helped us focus on the lived experiences rather than assumptions, and that highlighted the need for things like safety, dignity, and security, which is what influenced the development of our safe shelterware prototype. In conclusion, our theoretical domain today was about empathy. We found that empathy is essential to systemic domain design because it helps us understand how people actually experience systems rather than relying on assumptions alone. As a group, this concept really resonated with us because it challenged us to think more deeply about dignity, safety, and lived experiences in our homelessness project. And in practice, when empathy becomes meaningful is when it's applied through action. So empathy helped us guide both our understanding of the issue and the development of a more human. Thank you for listening to our presentation today on empathy. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us through Brightspace.